Okay, let's get started. So, for all you new people, welcome to the live stream. We have these are 60 minutes exactly. We'll finish on the hour, and I will have a couple of short announcements to make. Then we'll get into the content for today, which is all about ChatGPT and specifically ChatGPT plugins and what are some of the best plugins for accounting firms, for accountants, for bookkeepers. That's what we'll be talking about today. I also, though, have time to answer your questions about ChatGPT. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please just ask. To ask a question, because you've just seen perhaps the chat goes mad, just put two capital Q's in front, put QQ, then your question, then a question mark. It just helps them stand out so I can answer your questions. Also, don't leave it till the 59th minute to ask a question, because I go through them in the order they come in. So sometimes I don't get through all the questions. If you leave it right till the end, I might not be able to answer your question. So the sooner a question pops into your mind, please just ask. I will try to answer as many as I can. Hi there, Greg from Colorado, over on Facebook right now. Normally at this point, somebody does put in a dummy question with two QQs, but if that crops up at some point, I'll pull it up on the screen so you know what a capital Q is. Anyway, I normally have Lisa is normally here from the UK who normally does that for me, but she's not today. I wonder where Lisa is. She's missed about one session in 3 years. Okay, a couple of quick announcements. Oh, and I can see it just coming in at the moment. It'll just need my screen to refresh and I'll be able to show you. Sarah's just posted in a dummy question. Here it is. There you go. Ask it like that. Do you have a question with two capital Q's in front? And yeah, there's Sarah. And I'll see that. Okay. First quick announcement is, those of you that come regularly will know that one of the things we do is we want to help make the world a better place, and we always make a contribution on your behalf to a worthy project somewhere around the world. And we're changing the way that we do it this time. We do it through B1G1, amazing organization. Many of you know about B1G1. The way we're doing it now is a new feature they have, which basically means rather than us choosing which project that we are going to support, we will let you choose. And so the way this works, you'll want to get your smartphone ready. Get your smartphone ready, because I'm going to show you a QR code. But also, Sarah, you might want to put the link into the chat box right now. So in a minute, I'll show you a QR code, or use the link, and it'll take you to a page that looks like this, where there are 4 projects. And you can pick the project that most resonates with you. And then whichever project you choose, we automatically make a contribution to that project. It doesn't cost you a single penny. It costs us the money. It's our way of making the world a better place and involving you in that process. So let me just show the QR code. If you hold your phone up to that QR code or use the link that Sarah's putting into there straight away, you'll get the screen that looks like what you can see on the right hand side. All you have to do is choose which of those projects. Do you want to give people 40 days access to water, for example, or perhaps it's one of the other projects? Just click on the button that most resonates with you, and that's pretty much it. And it'll just confirm that you've made the contribution. It's not costing you, it's us making the contribution on your behalf to help make the world a better place. So grab that QR code or use the link that Sarah's put into the comments and choose your project. So thank you so much for coming along to this session. Those of you who are brand new, we do this for every live stream, every webinar, for everybody who turns up, we make a contribution to a project somewhere around the world. Okay, next thing, for those of you who are brand new, if you want to go deeper with ChatGPT, we have written an ebook on it. If you want to grab your free copy of the ebook, then either with your smartphone while you've got it, there's a QR code that will take you through to where you can grab the ebook. Or if you prefer the old-fashioned way, I know that Sarah's going to put a link in the comments box to the ebook fairly soon. And final announcement, very quickly, final one. Our next big live event is a week on Thursday, October the 26th. We are running the Profitable Bookkeeping Bootcamp for the second time. It was so successful. We got over 2,000 registrations, and we couldn't have we had an upper limit of 1,000. So we have got 1,000 places for a free ticket for an event coming up. And it's going to be me and Teresa showing you how to how to value price bookkeeping services. So if you've not yet been to our Profitable Bookkeeping Bootcamp, then use your QR code or use the link that Sarah's going to be putting into the chat, into the comments, to register your place. We only register and then make sure that you show up on the day, because we have a limit of 1,000 places, and we smashed that back in August when we last ran it, and we're not planning on running it again this year. So that's some free training for you. If you want to learn how to value price bookkeeping services, whether you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, that's going to be about 3 hours of live training from me and Teresa. Okay. Right, let's get into the content for today, ChatGPT. And actually what we'll start with is, we usually start with just some latest news, because as you know, this world of AI has just gone crazy. And it already kicked off in November of last year, when OpenAI launched ChatGPT 3 to the public, and that created a AI arms race of all the major companies developing AI at an incredible speed. If you came to our conference a couple of weeks ago, I talked a bit about the speed at which some of this technology is going. It's scary fast. And there are new things coming out every single week. There were in the last couple of weeks, some very big announcements from Google, who are really catching up in this space, and some really big announcements from Adobe, because they're doing a lot of stuff around images, videos, all with AI. But I'm not going to go a bit into those, partly because I prefer to focus on the stuff that's totally relevant to accountants and bookkeepers. So I'm not going to talk about the Adobe stuff right now, but you can, if you like photography, videography and stuff, there's some great stuff that they're doing. And I'm not going to go to Google either, also because actually in the last couple of weeks, ChatGPT, OpenAI have made some huge announcements, really big announcements. They've been talking about it for a few weeks now, back in early September, and now they are rolling it all out. They have, firstly, a few weeks back, they reintroduced Browse with Bing inside ChatGPT, which you may recall, if you've been regular to this live stream, they had to remove that in, I think it was early July, might have been, yeah, right at the end of June, early July. They had to remove it for legal reasons, because they found out that it allowed people to use Browse with Bing inside ChatGPT and get access to articles and things that were hidden behind paywalls, which is a shame, because I found it useful to read some of the articles that normally, from places like the New York Times and stuff, where you normally have to pay a subscription, you could access it. So they had to close it down. They've now reintroduced it just a few weeks ago. So there's Browse with Bing is back available, but then even bigger still, they introduced a couple of weeks ago 3 new capabilities, which are being rolled out to Plus users over the first 2 weeks of October. And I now have access to all of them. So later on today, I will show them to you. So we now have access to voice on iOS and Android. So you can now speak to ChatGPT and it will talk back to you. I was having some fun with that earlier, because I use ChatGPT to help me learn Portuguese. I have a chat where I get it to anything it knows that anything I put in English, it translates to European Portuguese and vice versa. And so I had a go at speaking into my phone earlier to get the translation, and it was pretty cool. I need to change my custom instruction, but it was pretty cool. So voice on iOS and Android has just come out. Even more exciting, though, is they've also built in DALL-E 3 inside ChatGPT. And DALL-E 3 is an image creation tool. You may have heard of Midjourney. It's OpenAI's equivalent to Midjourney. It has been around for a while, DALL-E 3. I think that from my experimenting, that Midjourney seems to be the leading tool for image creation, but DALL-E 3 version 3 is pretty good now, and even better still, you don't have to subscribe to it like you do with Midjourney, because it's actually inside ChatGPT. You have access to it with the Plus account. Now, of course, that has limited use for us as accountants, but the third thing, which I think is the most exciting, is image input. You can now upload images if you're on a Plus account. And there was a recent research report done by Microsoft, where it was a huge research report, I forget how many pages, 80 pages or something, looking at different ways that you can use image input, and it was hundreds and hundreds of different ways. Some of the stuff is going to blow your mind. It opens up so many possibilities, which we'll probably have to do a session just on that at some point in the future. I did share in our Facebook group, ChatGPT and AI for accountants and bookkeepers. I hope you're in it. If not, you might want to join that. I did share something that looks something like this. This was from the Microsoft article where you can upload a number of different invoices, for example, receipts, and ask it questions, and it's pretty accurate at identifying. In this case, it was what is the sales tax. I did it earlier. I was playing around with it, and I uploaded a Portuguese, because I'm in Portugal, I uploaded a Portuguese invoice I had floating around, and I thought, let me see how good it is. And I asked it to tell me how much do I need to pay and what is the tax. And it knew straight away that it was Portuguese. It knew that tax in Portuguese is IVA, so it correctly picked up the tax. It correctly picked up the right amount. But then I said, when do I have to make the payment by? And how do I pay this invoice? And it went through to tell me exactly how to make the payments and so on. It was able to read it. It was able to also research everything else it knows about Portugal and making payments in Portugal. I thought it was extraordinary. Now, somebody did point out in the Facebook group, quite rightly so, with the invoices, yes, but you can use Dext, and absolutely you can. And very often there are tools specific to what we want to do that are better. But I posted that just to illustrate how fast the world is moving, that yes, you can use Dext, but you can now upload images into ChatGPT and do some extraordinary things with them and ask questions and build on further prompts. So that, I think, is extremely exciting, perhaps not so much for reading receipts because you've got perhaps Dext, although you do have to pay for that. Whereas if you've already got the Plus account of ChatGPT, that's a brand new feature that's just part of the Plus account. So that's some of the new announcements. So let's get started. Let's talk about plugins. Let's go into ChatGPT plugins. We're going to look today at 10 great plugins that you can use. Let me just first of all talk a little bit about where plugins came from, how to access them, and so on. So plugins were introduced in May 2023. And if you remember, ChatGPT 3 was open to the public in November 2022, and then they introduced ChatGPT version 4 in March of, I think it was March or February, I think it was March 2022. 2023, and then just a few weeks later, a couple of months later in May, they introduced plugins. And back then, I think originally there was 80 plugins, and a lot of people were saying that plugins is going to be a game changer. It's going to change everything, and potentially it could do. It could do. There were about 80 in the first release back in May 2023. There's now over 1,000, and I describe it as a bit like the early days of the Apple App Store when that first came out, that it soon just ballooned with and there are now just tens, hundreds of thousands of apps. It's kind of overwhelming. Well, plugins are a bit like that. The problem with plugins is there's an overwhelming number of them, and also some are amazing and some are less good. So anyway, let's talk about how you get access to it, just in case you are not sure. So I'm just going to go across to ChatGPT. I'm in ChatGPT right now. And what you would need to do is, well, firstly, you have to be on the Plus account. So if you're on the free account, you've only got access to ChatGPT 3.5. And hopefully by the end of today's session, I'll show you some other things that you can do within ChatGPT 4, which will convince you that you probably want to upgrade at some point to Plus. It's a crazy low price considering the things that it can do for you. I had a session with some VPA members last week. We had 8 VPA members came to spend a few days in Portugal, and we had a morning talking about ChatGPT, and everybody by the end of it was convinced they need to be using it much more because of the amazing things you can do in your firm to save you hours of time. So anyway, one of the things you'll need to do is go into the bottom right where you see the 3 dots on your name, and you'll see settings and beta. And if you go to settings and beta, you want to go to beta features, and that's where you can turn on browse with Bing, plugins and advanced data analysis. You don't get them automatically, you have to turn them on. And you might as well turn them all on. I will talk about the other two as part of this session later on, but we are going to focus on plugins for now. So you have to be part of the Plus account, and then you have to go and turn on plugins. Now, once you've done that, when you start a brand new chat, you'll have in the top the option to use the old 3.5, which you get with the free account anyway, or you can use ChatGPT 4. And within there, you have a number of options. So as you scroll down, we can use the default model of ChatGPT 4. We can use Browse with Bing. We can use Advanced Data Analysis. We can use plugins, and we can use the brand new DALL-E 3. So you've got 5 choices, 6 if you count ChatGPT 3.5. And you do need to decide in advance for any chat which of them you're going to use. You can't go backwards and forwards. We'll talk more about that later. So you would need to go into plugins. And so when you go into plugins, underneath it says, mine says no plugins enabled, and the drop-down box. And what you will then find is that you have a list of all the plugins that you've enabled. So you can choose the plugins you want to use within the chat. And at the very end, as you scroll down, and mine's a long list now because I've been playing with lots of different plugins, but at the very end of the list, you then get to the plugin store. And so when you click on the plugin store, this is where, a bit like the App Store, you'll now see all of the plugins. And there are, I think it's now well over 1,000. And so you can either look for the popular ones, or you can search for plugins. So if you want something, for example, that will help you with, perhaps if we just type in finance, for example, you will find a whole bunch of stuff that might be related to finance. Now, the problem with that is it's a little bit, it's not necessarily relevant to the sort of finance you'll want to do. It's a bit broad, but you can search for plugins in that way. There's a couple of things, though, that I said to you earlier. When they came out in May, people said, oh, this is a game changer. It's going to open up so many possibilities. And that's certainly the case. But there are some restrictions, limitations at the moment. Firstly, all of these advanced features, they're all in beta mode at the moment. They're all in beta mode, so they will get better. They're in beta. That's the first point. The second thing, if I just go back to here again, when you decide to use plugins, and you select them. Let me just go back to here. So when you're back to here and you choose to use plugins, you select which ones you want to use. Like, for example, you might want to analyze PDFs, for example, and you can only have 3. It now says 1 out of 3 enabled. In other words, you can only use 3 at a time. And that means that when you are starting a new chat, you have a new task you want to do, you have to do a little bit of advanced planning if you want to use plugins. You have to think about, well, what plugins might I possibly use? Now, most of the time, there's just one that I want to use, and I'll just enable that one plugin. But sometimes you might want to use 2 or 3. And if you get through a chat and you've got some plugins enabled, but then realize you want to use another plugin, then you can't add more to it. So you've got 3, you've got to choose the 3 that you're going to use right up front. And the other thing that's a little bit frustrating about plugins, I find, is that, as I say, there's over 1,000 of them. It's a huge number. And I've been playing with, for the last week, different ones that are very specifically accounting related. There's not many. There's lots of great plugins. There's a limited number of accounting related ones. And some of the challenges that I found is that I might find a great plugin, but it's only specific to the US or the UK. So some of the accounting plugins are country specific, which can be frustrating. Another frustration that I find is that some of the plugins, particularly the accounting ones, you have to set up an account when you install the plugin. Most of them, you just tick a box, install it, and it's done. But some of them, you have to set up an account, and even worse, to get the output, you have to pay. A bit like you go and get an app, for example, from the Apple Store, and these days most apps have some sort of payment built in. Usually you pay to get extra features. In the old days when it first came out, I remember there were some really cool apps that came out on the iPhone early on, really cool ones that you could get for free, and they were great. And there still are some free ones. Procreate's my favorite app on the iPad for drawing, and that is still, I think, free. So some of them are free, some you have to pay. And the frustration I found is that sometimes you don't find out whether to pay or not until you've actually gone down the route of trying to install it. So let's talk about what I think are some of the better ones, some of the ones for you to play around with. And I specifically wanted to talk to you about the top 10 for accountants and bookkeepers. But because of those challenges, some are country specific and some you have to pay for, there's not actually that many. I struggled to find 10 really good ones. So I'm going to cover 10 great apps for you. They won't necessarily be accounting specific, but they will be relevant to things that you may want to do. And I'm going to start with, the first one I'm going to start with is, and I just have to find it, just bear with me a second, where I started my chat earlier. This is actually a few weeks ago. So the first one I want to tell you about is one called Pluginpedia. Now, this is nothing to do with the accounting profession, but this is just quite a cool little app that you might want to use, a little plugin. So Pluginpedia is a plugin to tell you what plugins to use. So I went in to ChatGPT with plugins and I installed the Pluginpedia. I think it's this little funny purple icon at the top. It looks like a tree to me. And I installed the plugin for Pluginpedia. And what I often do, here's a little tip for you. When you use a plugin for the first time, what you might want to do is make your first prompt something like this. Please bullet point all of the uses and functionality of the plugin, Pluginpedia. Give me a little explanation on how to best use and get the most use out of that plugin. Because they don't often come with an instruction manual. If you want to find out how to use them, you have to go and do a Google search, see if they've got a video or something, and very few do. So this I find really useful, and so it tells me that I can use this to make plugin recommendations. It helps you to find plugins that can solve specific tasks or problems. It allows you to search for plugins based on various categories like finance, business, social networking, etc. So that's the Pluginpedia. So what I then did is, just if I scroll down a little bit to one that's relevant for today, I went in and asked it, what are the best plugins for bookkeeping firms? And you can tell when it's using a plugin because it then says, it'll say using Pluginpedia, and when it's finished, it says used. So there's a bit of a waiting sometimes. With ChatGPT, it's pretty fast, but if you're using a plugin, the plugin goes away and does something. And if you click on the down arrow, usually it might be creating some code or something. So this is what it was doing. Not that we need to understand that in the slightest. I've lost that. Let me just close that. And I don't know why in this case it then repeated this bit of it. I don't know. But it then came up with what it thought were the best plugins for bookkeeping firms. So the first one it said was Receipt Assistant, which is, this is the icon, is for managing, reading, storing and reviewing your receipts. Now that looked quite interesting to me, but that was one that if you then want to install it, it asks you to put in your email address and a password. And because I'm not going to use this, I found when I was testing out plugins, I was just giving away my email address to so many different companies and thinking, I'm not going to use this, I'm just researching. So I didn't go deep into this one, but if that sounds something that you might be interested in, you can always go to Google and find out more about Receipt Assistant, and then you can play with the plugin if you're happy to open up an account to manage, read, store and review your receipts. Next one it came up with was one called Invoice for creating professional invoices in PDF or Word format. I will talk about that in a little bit more detail in a second, as I will with this one, because you might recognize the logo here. Avalara, if you're in the US, Avalara is for US calculating sales tax and looking up tax rates and so on. You may well use Avalara if you're in the US. Well, they have a plugin as well that if you're in the US, you will almost certainly want to check that out. Another one I'll come on to in a bit is Credit Yelp. And then there was one that was a plugin for SAP related questions. So that was what it came up with, Pluginpedia, when I asked it about the best plugins for bookkeeping firms. Now I did change that prompt and said, what are the best plugins for accounting firms? And it largely came up with a similar list, but it did come up with some different ones. There was Status Fund Finance, if you're looking for financial data tools, for analysing equities, price quotes, etc. Personally, unless you're into investing and stuff, I'm not sure that's really useful for day-to-day accounting work, but anyway, that's what it came up with. Fiscal Note is a US-only one for accessing latest sets of legal, political, and regulatory information. Another one to do with SAPs, calculator tools, currency converters if you have to do that regularly, and a few others. So that's the first one I want to mention. Pluginpedia you might find is a useful, free little simple plugin where if you want to look for plugins within a certain thing, like plugins for accountants, plugins for finance, plugins for, I did one for if personal things like travel advice or whatever, then you might find Pluginpedia useful. Let me talk a little bit about, let me go back to that invoice one. And so there are a number of plugins for creating professional looking invoices. One's called Invoice, there's Invoices, there's A+ Invoice Maker, there's Invoice Pilot. And they might be worth checking out. I found it a little bit frustrating for a reason I'll tell you about in a second, but I got the plugin for, I think it was Invoice, and I asked it the question, how can I best use it? It told me what I would do, what information to give it, and then I went through the process of saying, okay, I want you to generate an invoice for me with the following details. I gave some details and so on. It then gave me the option to upload a logo to put on there, which it did very successfully, or at least it seemed to. And then finally, it gets to the stage where, right, I've now created your invoice, and it gives you a link for a download link. And when I pressed that, it then gave me the option. Oh, leave this one. I had to sign up straight away with Copilot, which I didn't want to do. And so that was my frustration. And when I did sign, I did start the sign up process. And it then said it's $9.99 a month for unlimited invoices. Well, I was just testing. I didn't want to pay $9.99 just to test a single invoice. So that's one of the frustrations again, that there are some interesting plugins. And I looked at a lot of the invoice ones, and they all seem to charge you $10 a month to be able to create invoices. So perhaps that's not so useful. So let's go on to something else. I then looked at, what did I look at next? I looked at, in fact, let's go into, while I'm in that chat, I did then look at Avalara. So Avalara, my disclaimer here is this is US only, so forgive me if you are not in the US, but if you are, then I said, and in the US, sales tax is just crazy complicated. Using Avalara, what is the sales tax I need to charge for a delivery from? And I just put an address to another address. And it says, great, I've got, and it then went and researched Avalara. Great, I've got the sales tax information for both locations. It told me what the sales tax is in Albuquerque, in San Francisco, and then gave me some more explanation. And then I could have asked it more questions. And that's the great thing about ChatGPT with plugins, is that you can keep on the conversation, ask for clarification, or you could put in some different locations or whatever. So the combination of, I think, ChatGPT and Avalara, if you are in the US and have challenges around sales tax, I think would be really cool. That would be one of the top ones, I think, for the accounting profession. Okay, so let's now look at another one. I'm just conscious of the time. I do want to answer questions in a bit as well. Let me just show you a couple more that I really liked. There's a lot of plugins for helping you look at things like repayment plans on debt. And those of you that are in the Value Pricing Academy, I'm doing a session tomorrow on how you can build a debt elimination service for your clients and make a lot of money from it. So that's tomorrow's Value Pricing Academy session. Anyway, I've looked at a lot of different reviews of different tools, and consistently the one that comes out top on the list is called Credit Yelp. And so the sort of thing that you can do with that, if you have got Credit Yelp, is first of all, you have to enable the plugin, which I did. And then I said, using Credit Yelp, I want to borrow 100 grand APR is 5.6%. I want to pay it off over 10 years. What are the monthly repayments and interest paid each year? And it went and did all the calculations for that. So if you're looking to do calculations around repayment plans and stuff, then if that's a regular thing you do for clients, then you might find Credit Yelp really useful. Next thing I found, if you are another interesting one that I came across a long time ago now, but I thought I'd mention it, is if you are from a sales point of view, you've got a client coming in, for example, and you want to get some information about that client, then there's a great tool that I think this came out back in April by Clearbit. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you this one because you have to have an account for this one, but it does do some really interesting things, the Clearbit plugin. So if I just pull up, if you go to their sales page, they'll do things like it will tell you which companies have visited your website. You can get all sorts of interesting data. But what I found particularly interesting was their blog post on the ChatGPT plugin. And you can do all sorts of data analysis here, particularly, for example, finding lists of people and companies to contact. So from a selling point of view, if you're looking for new clients, or you've got a prospect coming in and you want to learn more about them, you can feed it, for example, an email address, and it'll tell you all the data it can get on that particular person from their email address, from the company details and so on. And I think back to when I was in practice many, many years ago, and I'd often want to get access to company data. And there was often lots of subscription services, but to be able to have that built inside ChatGPT, where I can start to ask all sorts of questions and queries about a particular company, its directors, people there, who are their other contacts in their network, could be really useful stuff. Okay, next one I wanted to tell you about. Now, this one's a UK only one, so I apologise. That's the problem. These aren't all universal, but I thought I'd just mention this for the benefit of those people in the UK. And that's if you deal with taxes. If tax is your thing, or you sometimes have to research tax, then there's a great plugin. At least it looks really good from my research, called NNER, E-A-R-N-R. It's the NNER plugin. So I asked it what it does, and what NNER does, it's a UK tax assistant that offers various calculators, advisory services related to tax and accounting in England, Scotland and Wales, gave some key features and so on. And so I asked it a few questions. I asked it, using the NNER plugin, how can a UK domiciled person avoid inheritance tax, including changing their domicile of choice? Because I live in Portugal now, I'm a Portuguese resident, so this is something of interest to me, and it talked about things like changing domicile of choice. And I know this is right because I actually researched this myself. I understand the rules in this. I then asked the question, for example, using NNER, what expenses can I claim for working from home? And as well as giving the advice, it then gave you the links to all the government websites for finding out where the source, it told you where it got the source of data from. So if you're in the UK and you want to do tax research, I think NNER is potentially a really useful tool. Okay, let's carry on. There is another one if you're in the US called Fiscal Note. Fiscal Note tells you what some of the latest regulations that are coming out. That might be worth checking out. But I want to wrap up with a couple of more broad areas. And so that I've talked about so far very specific things that are in finance, tax, and so on. And they may be brilliant, but there are those limitations. Avalara, I think, Avalara would be great if you're in the US. NNER, I think, would be a great tax tool if you're in the UK. And there's other ones that would be great if you don't mind paying a subscription or registering an account. But let's talk about some other things that I think you'll find useful to have, so kind of must-have plugins. And one of the types of plugins that you'll probably want to have access to is being able to access the web, to access the internet, because ChatGPT doesn't allow that in itself. Subject to, you can use browser with Bing. I'll tell you about that in a short while, and I'll tell you which route to go down. But there are plugins that give you web access. And there are two in particular that have always been my favorite, and they are WebPilot and Link Reader. So Link Reader and WebPilot are my two favorites. So I decided that what I would do, as many of you know, one of the things I have is I help people with value pricing, and we have a pricing tool to enable you to price with confidence, get higher prices called effective pricing. You probably know about effective pricing, you should do, and there's a website for effective pricing. So one of the things that you can do with ChatGPT is you can then start to get it to read and understand a website. And so I went in here and I activated plugins, I activated Web Pilot and Link Reader, and I just asked the question, read this web page and list all the benefits of this software, and I cut and paste in the web address in. And it then told me it was using Web Pilot. And after a few minutes, a few seconds of doing that, it then said, benefits of effective pricing software are you can price with confidence. The software provides a system for offering clients a fixed price based on what they value, eliminating uncertainty for all clients about the cost of services, getting higher prices, simple, easy to use, using price psychology, specifying payment terms, global usability, and full support. So it analyzed the full website and extracted for me that bit of information. What are the benefits of that particular piece of software? So that might be useful if you're doing research into software apps and things. You might just want it to summarize for you some of the key features or the benefits. It might be useful if you want to get some feedback on your own website, for example. There's all sorts of user cases that you could use. So if I ever want to access the internet for anything, then Web Pilot is one of my two go-to. Now, interestingly, as I just scroll down, I asked exactly the same thing of Link Reader, which used to be my favorite, but interestingly, Link Reader said it appears that the content from the website couldn't be properly retrieved for analysis, and I have no idea why. And so one of the points I wanted to raise is that I do find from time to time these plugins, sometimes they work really, really well, and sometimes they stop working for a while. I have no idea why. Perhaps they've gone to change them and it's just not working. So it's useful to have a number of different alternatives. Hence, if you're accessing the internet, having access to both Web Pilot and Link Reader, you can see which one works the best. So that's useful for accessing the internet. Next thing that you might want to do, is you might want to create some output. Turn your research into something else. And somebody asked me this question last week at the Portugal retreat. My friend John, I don't know if John's here or not, but he asked if you want to export the output into Word, then is there a good way of doing that? Because let's go back to here. If I wanted to put that in a Word document, I have two options. I can either hit up in the top right next to the thumbs up and the thumbs down, there's a little paste to clipboard icon, and I could paste that to the clipboard, or I could just grab it all and do Control-C, Control-V and put it into a Word document. And the problem with both of those methods is the formatting in Word isn't always great. Sometimes it will, if you use the clipboard, it will change the headings into markup language. In other words, it'll put loads of hashtags everywhere and asterisk things for bold, and you then have to tidy up in Word. So that can be a bit of a pain. So wouldn't it be better if you could output your research into Word much easier? And that's where we can then do, let me show you this. Is that the one I want? Yes. Yes. Okay. So if I go back to here, so there's a number of plugins for taking your content inside ChatGPT into a docx file, for example, a CSV file, sometimes PDF files. So you can use plugins not just to read a report or read the website, but also to then create something off the back of it. So if you want to create CSV files, there's a number of ways of doing that. I chose CSV Creator. So how can I use the plugin CSV Creator? I asked that question first, and it gave me some advice on the steps to use the CSV Creator plugin. That was a whole bunch of stuff there. So imagine that you've done a prompt, you've got an output like this, and you would like this to be in a Word document. What if I want to create a Word document where I want to give this advice to my customers, I want to create a Word document and I want to do it fast. I don't want to have to mess around with tidying it all up and so on. So there's a number of plugins that you can use to do exactly that. So I chose Doc Maker. There's several I could have used. So I also had Doc Maker installed. And I said, export this chat to a docx file. And it said, great news, I've exported our chat into a docx file. You can download it using the link below. So we then just hit the link that it's given me, and it takes me to here. And you can see here it's preserved all of the headings and so on. There's the document. And then there's a really, on the right-hand side, there's something that is even tidier there. And then you can hit the download button and download that to your hard drive. So that's a great tool for DocMaker if you want to create the output into a Word document. Let me go back to here, because then what I did is I wanted to test out a CSV file. So I said, create a table for the 10-year period from 1980 to 1989. Let me just get rid of that for a minute, the sidebar. Showing the year, the winner of the English Premier League, that's football or soccer if you're in the US, and the total number of points and the total number of goals scored. So I actually thought what it would do is it would go away and create the table inside ChatGPT, and I would then have to go and use DocMaker to convert the table into a CSV file or a document. It chose to, so in this case, it just went ahead and chose to use the plugin DocMaker. So one of the little tips for you when you're using plugins is sometimes ChatGPT won't use a plugin. It'll just go and do something if it thinks it knows the answer and bypass the plugin. Sometimes it might use a different plugin you've installed out of the three. So if you want to use a specific plugin, it's a good idea in your prompt to say that. So sometimes it just goes and makes and chooses. So anyway, what it did is it created for me a document. A Word document. So there's the table, and on the right-hand side, it's nicely tidied up. So there's the Word document, the docx file of all the winners. Some of you know that I'm a Liverpool fan, so I look back on the 1980s with some fondness because they were good times. Anyway, what I then want to do is test out the export to CSV. So I then said, create that table as a CSV file using CSV Creator. So in other words, you might get ChatGPT to do some analysis for you and create a data table, a table that you might then want to put into a CSV file to upload it as a spreadsheet, perhaps into QuickBooks. There's a video on my website, on my YouTube channel somewhere, where I showed how you could create a chart of accounts with ChatGPT, and then you could upload it into QBO, for example. Anyway, so I want to turn that into a CSV file, and so if I click that button, what it will then do is, I can't show you this because it then just downloads it, and stupidly I hadn't actually thought about getting ready to show you that, so I can't show you it. But anyway, that's downloaded that onto my file. So those plugins I think you'll find useful if you want to create either a Word document, a CSV file, and there are other file types as well that you can also create if you want to. Okay, that brings me on to the last app, or plugin, sorry, I want to talk to you about, because I've talked about, we've touched on a lot of plugins in the plugin, in the ChatGPT plugins, and all those plugins are third-party plugins. So Avalara, for example, is a third-party company, Credit Yelp is, Clearbit, and so on. So they're all third-party plugins. But if I was to list my top 10 plugins, and yes, I love web access, for example, with WebPilot, but if I was to list my number one plugin, I would say it's probably OpenAI's own plugin, which they launched at the end of June. And originally back then it was called the crazy name of Code Interpreter. Code Interpreter, why? Because what it essentially does is it takes your text-based input and it then uses code, Python code, to then do the analysis, which means it's much better for doing advanced data analysis, which then interestingly a few weeks ago they renamed it to Advanced Data Analysis, which makes much more sense because Code Interpreter was a crazy name and confusing. So code interpreter, as it was, advanced data analysis. Let me just do a new chat for a second very quickly and just show you where it is. In ChatGPT 4, you have advanced data analysis. This is OpenAI's own plugin. It's their own plugin. And this is the most powerful plugin, and I think particularly useful for us in the accounting profession because we often want to analyze data. Now, the interesting thing about advanced data analysis is that you can upload up to 10 files. So you can analyze Excel spreadsheets. You can analyze. That's just telling me it's timed out. You can analyze Excel spreadsheets. You can analyze CSV files. You can analyze PDFs. You can analyze images, video files. Which is interesting. That opens up all sorts of things. But interestingly, what people don't realize is that with advanced data analysis, you can also output to those data files. So you can create PowerPoint slides. You can create Word documents. You can create Excel files, CSV files. You can create images. There's some interesting things that you can do. So let me just show you one thing. One of the things that I teach, as many of you know, is I teach value pricing. I teach you how to value price your services. But for people who aren't ready for value pricing yet, I teach how you can do fixed pricing with confidence. And I talk about something called regression analysis. And so one of the things I did is I went into, if I just go to here, I went to create a very simple little Excel spreadsheet listing some sample clients and what my fee might have been and the monthly transactions. I might be looking to price bookkeeping services, for example. Something we'll talk about in the boot camp later on next week, so make sure you grab your ticket. But anyway, so very quickly, I pulled together this quick spreadsheet with 8 random clients, the price I might charge them for bookkeeping work, what the monthly transactions were, and I want to know how much to charge. How can I figure out how to do a fixed price? And one of the things that I teach is that you can create a pricing formula for fixed pricing, not for value pricing. There's no such thing as a formula for value pricing, but you can for fixed pricing. And so one of the things I teach, and I know Jim's here, that Jim and I have worked on, is you can do regression analysis. So I took that Excel spreadsheet and I put it into ChatGPT, into advanced data analysis. I uploaded you can see at the top, I just uploaded the spreadsheet. And I firstly said one of the interesting things you can do, a great first prompt when you use advanced data analysis is explain this data. And so it went and read the Excel file and it analyzed it and said, firstly, it seems to need cleaning up, which it did. In my original version, I forgot to take out blank rows and things. So it identified that it needed some cleaning up. And it also then says to properly analyze the data, some cleanup is needed. Will you like me to do that? And I said, yes, please clean it up. So remove those unnecessary rows, etc. So it went away and using Python code, which it shows you here, it went and cleaned it up and then said, yes, this data set seems to be a data set with columns for client, price, monthly transactions, number of bank accounts, entity. So it understands the data. It correctly understands that Excel spreadsheet. It's able to know what it is. And so now it understands that, we can ask it questions. So in this case, I asked it to carry out regression analysis based upon the price and the monthly transactions and provide a formula that can be used to calculate any price from monthly transactions, show the regression analysis as a chart, and tell me the R squared. And so it went away and it created the regression analysis, it created the formula, it did the R squared and a few other bits and pieces. So then I asked, and this is something that is interesting. I then said, can you refine the pricing formula using the sample data to take into account the number of bank accounts and trading entity? And it did exactly that. And it came up with a really interesting formula that first I didn't fully understand it. I have to scroll across. Where's the scroll bar? Because I couldn't work out what you put in for entity. But anyway, what I then did is I then said, output the cleaned up data file as a PDF. And so just to show you, it then took my Excel spreadsheet that it had cleaned up and it's a PDF that I could then download. You got an image of the PDF and I could click that and download the PDF. And it was interesting how it actually assigned a code to the trading entity, which it used in the formula. So some fascinating stuff there that if you're in the Value Pricing Academy, I'll be teaching you more about advanced data analysis and also how to use it for helping you with pricing. But I want to just touch on that because of all the plugins, I think advanced data analysis is the best. So let me just wrap up with one final comment, and then I'm going to look at, we've got about 7 or 8 questions for client, for question, 7 or 8 minutes for questions, sorry. I don't think there's many questions that have come in, so I will carry on. I will carry on. If you haven't put QQ in front, I might miss your question. I think, Marianne, you didn't at first, but I now see you have. So let me answer those questions in a second. The last thing I just wanted to cover is, if I go back to here. So when you are using ChatGPT, you have 6 choices. And you'll see a lot of it's in beta. So you can use ChatGPT 3.5, and that's your only option if you're on the free account. 3.5 is very, very good. There's some amazing things you can do with 3.5, particularly, as many of you know, I think it's particularly great for coming up with ideas, ideation, brainstorming. It's great for marketing, content creation, and it's brilliant for business advisory if you want to run a business advisory service. They're my favorite use cases for ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT, if you upgrade to the Plus account, which I think is a crazy low amount of money, is $20 a month, and I use it every day. I would be surprised if I don't save at least a day of time a week. I save so much time. There's so many things on autopilot now. I've got prompts, standard prompts I use to create stuff. And so if you use ChatGPT properly, I'd be amazed if you can't save 2 or 3 hours a month. And I don't know how much you value your time at, but to me, I would happily pay $20 to save 2 or 3 hours a month. I save way more than that every single week. And when you upgrade to the Plus account, you now get access to GPT-4, which is a much more powerful model, will give you much better answers, particularly if you want to do things like high-level stuff like marketing, business advisory services. I think the ChatGPT-4 is extraordinary what you can do. And you'll see that's the default model. Now, with the default model, if I just click on default, we now have, as of the last few weeks, access to upload images, attach images. This, I think, is extraordinary. There are so many use cases that you can use here, which I won't go through now. It's going to be another session. In fact, I was talking to Emily earlier, and we might do a session on advanced uses of ChatGPT. You can upload images there. You also have Browse with Bing. You have the advanced data analysis, the plugins, and then, of course, DALL-E 3 for creating images. And the one challenge or the problem here is when you're about to start a new task, the question you have to ask yourself is, which one's the best one? What's the best option? Because you can't chop within the context of one chat. You can't switch. You're stuck on that channel. So you have to make a decision up front. And so let's say you want to do a chat, and at some point in it, you want to access the internet. Well, if you want to access the internet, you have 2 choices. You either go into plugins and you install either WebPilot, Linked Reader, or another tool that lets you access the internet, or you use Browse with Bing, which they've recently reinstated. And they both work slightly differently. My problem with Browse with Bing is every time I then want to do a further prompt, it seems to go off to the internet to do it and not use ChatGPT's thinking. Whereas with the plugins using WebPilot, if all I want to do is feed it some information first from a website, I can do that, and then I can ask it all sorts of questions, and it then just uses ChatGPT. It doesn't go off to the internet to come up with the answer. It uses the way that I've taught it to think. But there's a choice there. Do you use Browse with Bing, or do you use something like WebPilot? If you want to analyze a PDF document, then you could either use a plugin for that. There's a number of plugins for analyzing PDFs. Some are better than others. But also you could use advanced data analysis, which I generally find usually is better for most things, but not all things. And then, of course, you could always turn the PDF into an image and use ChatGPT-4 with the ability now to upload images, which is this image at the bottom left. So there are lots of different routes. And at some point, I'll probably do a session where we'll go into the advanced use cases and help you to identify which route you want to go down for a specific task. But I'm conscious that we've got 5 minutes left, and I do want to answer any questions. Somebody said, what is the link for the ebook? I'm guessing Sarah's probably answered that one, hopefully. I think, Marianne, that question we've answered now. Are the plugins within ChatGPT free, or do they have additional charges? So you do have to have the Plus account, but it's only $20 a month. Within that, most of the plugins are free. WebPilot was free, but some of them, usually the more specific things like raising invoices, they all seem to charge a fee for that. So I think most are free, but some there will be a fee for. Joe says, so there's no way I can access any plugins for the free version. No, you can't. You do have to upgrade to Plus. But the more you start to research what you can do with ChatGPT, it is extraordinary some of the things that you can do, particularly if you want to grow your accounting firm with marketing, if you want to add value to your clients through business advisory, the hours it'll save you, the quality of the outputs you'll get, it's worth upgrading. It's one of the best pieces of software you could possibly imagine for the hours it will save. But if you don't want to subscribe yet, start with a free one. 3.5 is still pretty good. Crystal Robinson said, what is the name of the plugin to use for lead generation? He just mentioned it around 10:34. That was Clearbit, Clearbit. So one of the things that, let me, so what I'm going to do, but this is only for, Chris is on Facebook. I can't do this on Facebook, I'm afraid, but I will. Perhaps Sarah can help me out. I have got YouTube open. I'm going to just put the link to the Clearbit blog. The Clearbit blog is the one that's in YouTube now. I'll just post it in the chat. And that's the one that tells you about the Clearbit plugin. So you can research that a bit more and decide whether or not you want to have a look further at Crystal. But I know you're on Facebook, so hopefully somebody can put it in there. David, I probably can't answer this one. He says, with Clearbit, can you create a list of name, postal addresses and email addresses for new homeowners with home price? I don't know, David. I've not researched it because you have to set up an account for that, and I don't want to set up an account for it particularly because I wouldn't have a personal use for it. Okay, Charles says, I can't find advanced data analysis in the plugin store. That's because you won't. It's not there. It's when you go to start a brand new chat, then it's one that when you go to ChatGPT 4 in the top right, it drops down with a number of different options. And advanced data analysis is separate to the plugin store. It's not in the plugin store because they're all third-party plugins, whereas DALL-E 3 is OpenAI's own product and advanced data analysis is their own plugin. So it's not in the plugin store, it's just shown separately. I hope that helps, Charla. What else? Yeah, so I think I've answered that one. Why is that showing? Okay, this is awesome. Leslie uses it every single day. A lot of people in my academy use it every single day because we teach it a lot. We go really deep on it in some of our sessions like Marketing Monday and our business advisory because there are so many uses there. We have, I think, 1 minute left. David says, Mark, do you know if advanced data analysis can build formulas, Excel in particular, by providing written instructions, samples? Yes, I'm pretty sure it can do. It's advanced data analysis is very good. In fact, generally speaking, I think ChatGPT is good at helping you with Excel if you want to know how to create a formula. But in particular, I know that advanced data analysis is great for helping you with Excel. Now, I know my friend Jim will say that there's now AI built into Microsoft are building AI into all their tools, so you will be able to get access to that support inside Excel. But I think they're rolling the AI side out still. But yes, play around with advanced data analysis, David. There's a lot of really fascinating things you can do there. I think, A, we've run out of time, and B, I think I've answered all the questions, which is quite extraordinary. If I've missed your question, I apologize. Let me just quickly remind you before we wrap up that if you want to find out how to price bookkeeping services, we have a completely free training, 3 hours of training. I think it's 3 hours. Yes, 3 hours, me and Teresa Slack. It's October 26th. So either use your smartphone to grab that QR code, or I think Sarah's put in the chat somewhere, the link to get your free ticket to the Profitable Bookkeeping Conference. Those of you who are brand new to my live stream, remember, if you want the ebook, ChatGPT for accountants and bookkeepers, again, you can either use the QR code or Sarah has put the link into the chat. So grab those free resources. And the next live stream we are doing will be 2 weeks' time. I think we've agreed a date. I think we said, let me just check my calendar. I think we finalised a date. Next one will be, November the 2nd. November the 2nd is the next one. I'm hoping Emma will be back. And the next one, we haven't finalised the topic yet. But if there's anything you want us to teach you on these live streams, then go into our Facebook group, AI and ChatGPT for accountants and bookkeepers, and give us some feedback and let us know what you'd like to cover in these live streams. I'm thinking that in 2 weeks' time, we might do some more advanced use of ChatGPT. But let me know if there's something else that you would like me to cover. Okay, I'm going to play out with some music, as I always do. Give me a chance to read all the various comments. I will see you all hopefully soon. If you're in the academy, I might see you tomorrow for Profit Advisory Live. If not, I'll see you at the Bookkeeping Bootcamp next week or the next live stream in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.
I wasted all my time, I wasted all my nights, I wasted it on someone who's indifferent. He didn't love me right, he told me I was blind, but I never really wanted to listen.